The courtroom was packed, every seat filled, and the air was so heavy it felt like no one could breathe. It was one of those rare moments where time slows down, the kind of moment you only see in the last scene of a movie right before everything explodes. At the center of it all sat Sean Carter, better known to the world as Jay Z, a man who had built not just a career but an empire with billion-dollar businesses, chart-topping albums, countless awards, and a marriage to Beyoncé that made them the closest thing to royalty. He had mastered power, image, and control for decades, but none of that mattered now. Because in this room, Jay Z was not a mogul, not a legend, not a billionaire. He was a man about to lose the one thing he thought untouchable: his legacy. Across from him sat a man named Ramir, not a celebrity, not a star, just a man who had carried the same truth for over a decade. He said Jay Z was his father, and for years nobody listened. Not the courts, not the press, not even Jay Z himself. People brushed him off, called him a clout chaser, accused him of looking for a payday. But Ramir was not asking for money. He never had. He only wanted the truth. He only wanted to know where he came from. He only wanted a father after years of being ignored, smeared, and dismissed. Ramir finally had his day. The DNA test had been taken. The results were in, and Jay Z, the man who dodged the question for years, was sitting just a few feet away from the answer. Reporters leaned forward. Cameras zoomed in. Even Jay Z's legal team looked uneasy. The judge held the paper in his hands and read the results aloud. The DNA matched. The room exploded with gasps. Jay Z's jaw clenched. His eyes dropped to the floor. He muttered under his breath. Then, suddenly, the man known for composure, for negotiating billion-dollar deals, lost control. His fists slammed against the table. His voice cracked as he barked words no one could make out. His lawyers swarmed him, whispering urgently, but the damage was done. The cameras had captured everything, and the internet would replay it endlessly. Before the day was over, Ramir sat still. No smile, no celebration. Just the quiet face of a man who had fought for the truth and finally got it. But far too late. This was not a victory. It was confirmation. Confirmation of years lost, a childhood without a father, a lifetime of being called a liar, of being laughed at and ignored. And now the truth came in a sterile courtroom long after the damage was done outside. The world reacted. Social media exploded. Some defended Jay Z, saying he was protecting his family, his image, his empire. Others tore him down for denying his son for so long, questioning his integrity and wondering how a man with everything could be so afraid of the truth. Hashtags, trended memes, spread clips of Jay Z's breakdown-filled feeds. But behind the noise, this was not entertainment. It was not gossip. This was two men. One who had spent his life avoiding the truth, and one who had spent his life chasing it. Jay Z no longer looked like a mogul. He looked cornered, cracked open by a truth he could not bury. His hands shook as he wiped his face, his armor shattered. This was not business, this was fatherhood, and here his power meant nothing. His lawyers begged the judge for a recess, flipping through papers, whispering strategies, but Jay barely heard them. His eyes finally lifted and met Ramir's across the room for a second. The chaos faded away. No cameras, no lawyers, no empire, just a father staring at a son he had never acknowledged, and a son staring back at the man he had waited his whole life to know. They did not speak. They did not need to. The silence said everything. The judge dismissed the room, but Jay Z did not move. He sat frozen as if time itself had stopped his empire. His image, his myth of being untouchable, had taken a hit that no press release could repair. The verdict was final. The DNA matched. Outside reporters swarmed the hallways. The crowd grew louder. Protesters shouted, some waving signs in support of Ramir, others defending Jay Z, calling it a setup, a stunt. The internet dissected every frame, every detail, podcasts, influencers, legal analysts, all feeding the frenzy. But inside, the moment remained human. Jay sat weighed down by the truth, and Ramir slipped out quietly. No cameras, no smiles, no words. He had carried the burden of proving something that should never have needed proving. He had been mocked, doubted, accused of lies, and scams, all for asking for recognition. Today, the court gave him truth, but not time, not love, not closure. The truth did not erase birthdays, missed, or moments lost. It did not bring back his mother Wanda, the woman who told him the truth from the beginning, who died before she could see this day. Jay finally stood up. He straightened his jacket like he was trying to put his armor back on, but it no longer fit his lawyers. Whispered about PR, damage control, legal options, but their words felt distant. His mind was not on the empire. It was on the son who had just walked out. That boy was no longer a boy. He was a man composed and dignified in ways that had nothing to do with fame or wealth, and that cut the deepest Jay Z had not just missed. The truth he had missed, the entire journey, outside the media storm, only grew. Jay Z breaks down in court. The headlines screamed, everyone had an opinion, conspiracies spread, but beyond the noise, the story was larger than gossip. It became a cultural reckoning, a reminder that no amount of fame, money, or power could shield you from accountability forever. Not when real lives were involved. For Jay Z, the verdict was final. For Ramir, it was not closure, it was confirmation. He was the son, but that did not suddenly make Jay Z a father. It did not give him the connection he longed for. It only gave him proof. Jay stepped out of the courthouse, cameras flashing, reporters shouting, but this time there were no words, no spin, no control, only the truth.
Do you believe wholeheartedly that Jay is your father?
I really do. And if it's not, why you can't prove me wrong? Like, it's not far as a proving me wrong thing. It's go to the courtroom and basically do what everybody else would have to do. Like, it's not, you don't have to prove me wrong. I just want the truth. Honestly, I can take a no. I can take, if I'm embarrassed at the end of the day, I can take that.